Hey Prehab, welcome back to the channel. I'm Dr. Dorian St. Danik, Doctor of Physical Therapy. Today we're gonna go over the MCL, or the medial collateral ligament, which is a key stabilizer of our knee joint. So let's discuss the anatomy and location of the MCL. It's a flat band of collagen tissue on the inside of the knee. It originates or starts at our femur, our thigh bone, and then it inserts down into the tibia, or the shin bone. So it has three main functions, right? It's gonna prevent inward collapse of the knee during activities such as walking, running, or pivoting. Number two, it assists with proprioception, right? So as our knee moves in space, as it takes on different positions in space, it's telling our brain where our knee is in space, particularly in regards to the inside of the knee. And then number three, it has dynamic function, right? So it does work in conjunction with surrounding muscles, the quad, the hamstring, the adductors, the groin, to help us carry out three-dimensional movements in different planes of motion. So knowing the roles of the MCL help us understand what type of mechanisms lead to the MCL injury. All right, so three main mechanisms on MCL injuries. The first one being a direct impact to the outside of the knee. So maybe in a contact sport, if you get a direct blow to that outside knee and the knee comes inward with some force, that can stretch or tear the MCL. Number two, we might have like an awkward pivot or twist, maybe an awkward landing, and we get a fast speed pivot twist going inward. That can also create a tear. And then finally, number three, again, maybe an awkward landing from a jump or run, stepping off of a curb. If you get a hyperextension type of injury, that can also create some tear in the MCL. And when we look at classifying an MCL injury, it's gonna be from grade 1, which is micro tears, very slight stretching, all the way up to grade 3, which is a full rupture of the tissue. However, the MCL gets such good blood supply that even those high-grade tears can actually heal and scar really, really well. So if you've been cleared to start MCL rehab, or you're looking to self-manage this injury on your own, let's go over some principles and exercises. All right, so early phase MCL rehab, we want to regain our mobility. So let's make sure we get our full knee extension and knee flexion range of motion, both in an active and passive sense. You're going to want to use exercises such as the heel prop to improve your passive knee extension. You're gonna wanna use exercises such as quad sets to improve your active knee extension. You're gonna wanna use heel slides to improve your passive knee flexion. And then finally, something like a heel dig or hamstring bridge to improve that active knee flexion. And we actually do cover a lot of these exercises for both knee extension and knee flexion in the 2 YouTube videos attached. So, due to their attachments on the inside of the thigh, the adductor muscles act as a secondary stabilizer to the MCL. So you wanna make sure you're clear with actually loading these adductor muscles with little to no pain before moving into progressive strength training of the groin musculature. Quick, easy test you can do is a groin squeeze. If you have a ball, a yoga block, you can go ahead and lie down on your back and squeeze your object in between the heels. And basically you're gonna squeeze the legs inward like you're trying to squish. And you're gonna hold for about 5 to 10 seconds, and you're slowly working your way up from 25% all the way up to 100% intensity. And once you can hold that 100% intensity with little to no pain, it's time to move to your progressive strength training. All right, so the MCL is most stiff and taut and stable when the knee is fully extended, fully straight, which makes it a key supporting system during activities such as standing and walking. So we wanna make sure we load that knee straight position. An exercise we're gonna look at, it's single leg balance with anti-eversion. I'm gonna have a band or a cable anchored at about hip height, and we're gonna step out, get some tension on that band, and we're gonna try to get into a single leg balance, referencing my left leg here. Punch that band out in front of you and just try and hold. The band is trying to pull me into valgus collapse, inward collapse, putting that strain on the MCL. And I'm using some of my glute and my groin and my inner outer shin to stabilize and not collapse inward. We're gonna try to get to 3 rounds of 30 seconds, and this is an exercise we can do daily. If that's tough, you can always kickstand for a little bit of support through the other leg. When this gets easy, you can turn it into repetitions, keeping the volume high, but basically looking for more tension as you rotate to the outside of the leg. So find something like a 2 to 3 set, 15 rep flow, still at a daily cadence. This will help your standing and walking stability. All right, so once we've cleared loading tolerance to the groin muscles with our supine groin squeeze, we're gonna move on to targeted and specific loading of those groin muscles. So this is our progressive strength process that's gonna load the adductors. Grab a bench, a box, a chair, an ottoman, something you can elevate your shin onto. In reference to my left leg, we're gonna get the whole shin up onto the bench, and then we're gonna prop and pick our hips up through the opposite side forearm. And we get into this plank position where, yes, my groin muscles are really turned on, but I'm also resisting that inward collapse that's happening at the knee and at the hip, so that valgus inward collapse. So you wanna hold, trying to get to 3 rounds of 30 seconds. And if you need to scale this down, you can definitely use help from that bottom leg to try to get into those longer duration holds. And then once this gets easy, you can actually turn it into repetitions and work that isolated strength and stability through full range of motion. So this exercise is definitely starting to hit some higher intensity loads. It might leave you a little bit sore, so we recommend exploring this about 2 to 3 days a week. So once you can go through your basic foundational movements, such as a squat, a lunge, a step up and step down, with good control, no symptoms, it's time to move on to more dynamic strength training. So this next exercise is gonna place the knee sort of in like an inward pointing direction, which is gonna create direct stress onto the MCL. It's called the curtsy lunge. So we set up in a formation, this is in reference to my left leg. We're gonna set up with a split stance, and then we're gonna take that rear leg across. We're about the width of the shoulders or the hips. And then basically this knee is starting to get this like inward tension, inward collapse. And we're coming down, trying to resist some of that inward collapse for an up and down repetition, right? So we're feeling a lot of groin, a lot of quad. And this might be your first exposure to that kind of like pivoting and twisting position. So you might want to start with body weight, 6 to 8 reps, 2 to 3 sets. That's easy and very comfortable. Grab a weight, and we recommend putting it into the opposite side arm. So if I'm loading my left groin, I'm gonna put this weight into my right arm. And what that does, this weight is actually trying to pull me to that inward collapse a little bit more. So my groin is having to work that much harder during the descent of this movement, right? So even with weight, 2 to 3 sets, 6 to 8 reps, 2 to 3 days a week, make sure you're progressively loading this exercise to keep getting stronger and really mimicking that pivoting, twisting stress onto the MCL. So as your strength and stability begin to improve, maybe you've been loading those curtsy lunges progressively for 2, 4, 6 weeks, it's time to introduce power and return to sport activities. So we need to introduce speed, reactivity, agility, and a little bit of impact into that MCL area to really get us ready for higher stress and just higher cognitive demands that might enter the knee function. We're gonna look at this exercise called the medial rotational depth drop landing. So taking anywhere from a 2 to 12-inch step, this here is 6 inches, we're gonna be up on the box facing perpendicular to the direction that we're going. So I'm gonna be going towards my right in reference to my left leg. Cross your leg over the body and rotate 90 degrees to get into this stable landing position. The stable landing position, it's about a 45-degree knee bend and it's about a 45-degree hip bend. So one more time. I'm gonna cross over and hit my landing, trying to control all that inward force that came from my momentum. this is tough, you may want to finish in a double leg position. Once it gets easy, go ahead and rise that step, which is going to create even more impact and speed for you. For these exercises, the intensity needs to be high, those cognitive focus needs to be high. So we're only going to do about 5 to 6 reps, 2 to 4 rounds, just 2 days a week. So you can find full regressions and progressions to these types of movements and activities in our lower body performance level 1 and level 2 programs. Level 2 is just released in our app. So the MCL is a postural stabilizer during activities such as standing and walking, and it's also a dynamic stabilizer during activities such as pivoting, twisting, and cutting. Go ahead and use single leg balance with anti-eversion resistance to work on that static stability that relates to walking and standing. Go ahead and use Copenhagen planks to improve the isolated strength and stability of those inner groin muscles and start to transition you into those more dynamic movements. Go ahead and use the curtsy lunge to create that inward stress, that torsional inward stress into the knee and help build up your dynamic strength and stability. Finally, use medial rotational depth drops to introduce power, speed, and agility in relation to stabilizing the MCL. Hopefully we all learned some principles, education, and exercises today in regards to MCL injuries. If you enjoyed the video, give us a like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.